So, what are my dreams in life? What are my goals? Why am I here? Why do I do what I do? Why do I get out of bed each morning? Do I even know? Do I have a plan for life? Do you have a plan for life? What is this playlist all about? This playlist I'm going to rename it. Most likely going to rename it. I originally had called it my Dream Girl Daisy or something like that. And quite frankly, I also want to talk a little bit about poisonous people and how to avoid them. But that's a little bit later on. So for right now, what dreams do I have in my life? Well, uh, Kareem Jabbar is an inspirational person, and the fact that he was awarded the Medal of Freedom is something truly inspirational to me. So I guess in one way or another, um, yeah, I guess in one way or another, that inspires me. I think I'd like to be considered for something like that too. Not necessarily that I care whether I win or not. It's not about the medal itself. It's more about the league that you've got to be playing in to even be considered for such an award. The Medal of Freedom is the highest honor that any civilian in the United States is eligible to receive, and he received it. That's extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary, inspirational. I'd like to have that opportunity to at least be considered somewhere by somebody to have done something great enough that they're even considered for that. There's 320 million people in the United States. 320 million. But is that why I do what I do on a day-to-day basis? No, that's some far-off dream. Honestly, it's not like the main thing that gets me out of bed. I could care less about that. Honestly, it's not the main dream per se. I mean, like everybody else, you could say I just want to be happy. Like everybody else, you probably just want to be happy too. Thing is, some happiness is the same for all humans, and some happiness is not. Because happiness, there was a quote, another quote. Happiness is nothing more than good health and a bad memory. Oftentimes, any lack of happiness is just a self created mirage and not actually real. What are my goals in life? What are my goals in life? You could say that my goals in life include stability. I would say that by far my number one goal in anything else is stability. That I seek to be a stable man in a stable environment with stable mental vibrations. So, in all that I do, I seek to be stable. And stability is my number one goal that transcends all else. I've been single for 4.5 years, 100% because of this book. That I've been single for 4.5 years, and I could be single for another 4.5 years. I could be single the rest of my life. It wouldn't necessarily hurt me because I don't need the validation of a relationship to evaluate my own self worth. I have a very strong sense of self worth, and it's a very healthy thing to have. I'm proud of every choice I've made along the way. I think too many people stay in relationships because they don't want to be with themselves. They're in relationships because they don't want to acknowledge that there's something unsettling with themselves. If you can't sit there, I mean, it's the same reason I think most people go to parties in the nightlife. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with going out, but often it's the same cause that cause. I mean, it's the same input that causes both of those. Whether you're bouncing from a relationship like you can't be single for a month, or whether you're going out to parties and blowing your check, you know. Um, if you're going out to parties, is it really because you like the environment, or is it really because you dislike yourself so much that you want to blend in with a mob of people and lose your individuality? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that once in a while, but you're forfeiting all of the greatness that makes you an individual. And as you'll learn later on, I'm a very strong individualist. As much as I am also objectivist, I'm also very individualist. So I think going out and bouncing from relationship, like a lot of guys come out of a relationship because guys' emotions, and I just understand this to a instinctual point, men's emotions are like a rubber band. I used to have one here. Men's emotions are like a rubber band, okay? Women's emotions are like a wave. And this is some basic, again, like there's 3 books that I knew that no matter what, there was 3 books. The first 2 are the 4 Agreements. The second one is the Power of Ethical Persuasion, and the third one is actually by John Gray, PhD psychologist, who wrote Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. It's a green cover, and I've read that book several times through. Having been single for this long, the emphasis has been placed on preparation, you could say. The emphasis has been placed on preparation for when someone magnificent comes along. So I understand how emotions work in relationships, what they go through, because I'm a social psychologist, and in some of my observations of the public when I'm going to the mall, it's just like people who have a regular psychology class in college or something, they get these assignments all the time. Go do people watching, go to the park, count how many times this, that, and the other. And they do this, and it's just part of an experimental sort of lifelong learning approach that I've done that too, not literally the same way, but I'll go and people watch a little bit, and it's amazing what sort of nuances you can discover about the nature of human psychology in its most universal sense. Let that sink in for a while. So, where do I want to be 5 years from now? Who do I want to be with? Because life is really made up of our relationships, and the people that we know. It's not about what you know, it's about who you know. So, who you know is going to determine the quality of your life experiences. Like I said, I believe strongly that the quality of my life experiences are exceptionally high. So it's not like another person could necessarily bring my emotions down. However, I think of the only reason of having another person in your life is so that they can raise your levels of emotion and so forth even greater. So if they're not doing that, why would you sacrifice? It's not about letting the old ones go, it's about letting the new ones in. Think about somebody who doesn't necessarily lift you up, but actually takes you down a little bit. And it's like that's the elevator principle. We can either lift people up or take people down in our relationships, and that's true for anybody. We can either lift people up or take people down in our relationships. So when you do something to me where you try to take me down, number one, I evaluate it from a few different perspectives. Number two, I let it roll off my shoulder. I don't care. And I stay, at my higher level, because higher level always neutralize lower levels. Higher levels always neutralize lower levels. So I stay up there. Um, I also like to gain awareness, because higher levels always have awareness as well. So the higher levels have more awareness. Just because I don't choose to act in some sort of direct, vengeance or what's that word? Holding a grudge. Holding a grudge. From my experience, holding a grudge does a lot more damage in the holder than anybody else. Like, let's say that you and I have not talked for 3 months, and now we meet up and we're talking. And between the two of us, one of us is going to have always the case, one of us is going to have a little bit higher frequency than the other. Because nobody's identical, so that means everybody's unique. And if everybody's unique, then everybody has an objective evaluation, and everybody's objective evaluation is going to be different. So everyone you meet will either be a higher frequency than you or a lower frequency than you. Everyone you meet. And if you get in some conflictual need for drama, it's just a variance, It's a variance. There are two ways of looking at this, and that was the first way. The second way is a circle. Imagine a circle. Okay? And when you break up a circle, typically you get how much? 360 degrees. Because 180 degrees is a straight line, 90 degrees is a right angle. That's 90 degrees. And then a straight line would be 180 degrees. So in the whole circle, you've got 360 degrees. And imagine that drawing a straight line out to the side at 1 degree is like a perspective that you can take. And imagine that drawing another line out to 3 and 5 and 7 and 9. You're going all the way around the circle, and now you've got 180 perspectives. You go on, you put them in the evens, 2, 4, 6, 8. Now you've got 360 perspectives all around this circle. What is it that these perspectives are perceiving? These perspectives are unique psychological lens of the same phenomenon happening at the center of the circle. The experience that you have of the center of that circle is based on your perspective and where you're coming from. There are other perspectives to take. There are other perspectives to take. So I guess I could apply that here when it comes to poisonous people. Just because I see this person as poisonous doesn't mean she actually is necessarily. But I feel detached from it. It's important to make evaluations and judgments, and it's important to also kind of conceal your intentions. And quite frankly, I conceal my intentions by letting people not know what I really want unless I absolutely trust them absolutely, because chances are I'm not going to trust you all the way right up front. It takes time to build trust with somebody. So if I don't trust you absolutely right now, chances are I'm going to conceal my intentions a little bit. I'm also going to conceal what it is that I truly feel in my heart, because you got to protect that dude so you don't get all fucked up inside like you've been before, you know? So, yeah, having been hurt, having been alone, having been tempered like steel, stronger than strong and tougher than tough, having been made resilient, having been made resilient came at a price, and that price was objectivity. What that means is most people get in a relationship and they say, oh, this is about, if some other boy comes along, the girl says, well, I've got a boyfriend. Half the time they do that even when they don't. Guy can do the same thing. Oh, I'm talking to the girl, whatever. Having a relationship, I'm sorry, not a relationship, actually being alone completely has allowed me to observe the public from a social scientist, social psychologist perspective, to observe the public, to observe all types of people, men, women, single, partnered. I've seen all walks of people, and most people are empty inside. Most people got a void somewhere. There's one place I worked at, won't say where or who, but before I started driving for Uber, actually only like a month before I started driving for Uber, I was working at this other place. It was a steakhouse. There were these co-workers of mine that, well, I don't want to get into the whole story. Poisonous people do exist. There's basically two ways of looking at it. If you keep them in your life at all, it's only because you want to lift up their energy. That would be the only reason for keeping them in your life, is that, but there's two types of people out there. And everybody knows you don't just throw your pearls to swine. And you got to think about your time that way. Think of every hour on the clock, from 12 to 1, from 1 to 2, from 2 to 3. Every hour of your life, including the ones you're sleeping. Every hour of your life is probably about $3 million. And if you're given those pearls, literally those are pearls, and they're just going to trample on them. So you want to keep people that'll respect the values that you hold, because the fact that you hold similar values, that's important in relationships, in my opinion. I guess this whole thing might just turn into a talk about relationships, how to have better ones or something like that. Maybe so. Maybe so. Poisonous people do exist. I mean, if you're not lifting them up, and if they're not receptive to you, because one of the 7 faces of intention is receptivity, and being receptive to feedback is necessary, especially if you prioritize my core value 3 of idea meritocracy. It requires receptivity in order to work. It's pretty common sense when you think about it, but most people don't think about it. So